Whichever wants to initiate it first.
Solea's kind of like nestled, I'd imagine, since we're in the forest. She's kind of nestled on a stump, mindlessly plucking at the strings of her guitar.
It's difficult to tell if Sword is conscious or not, considering you can't see her eyes and she hasn't moved a single solitary inch since she dropped down onto her knees where she is.
Still alive over there?
I suppose. But why interrupt your pleasant playing?
There's no... You shouldn't worry about interrupting. Besides, I can multitask.
I do wonder. Your voice sounds so much more developed.
Developed.
You sound like you've trained it.
In a way. I've learned to be a little more confident, I suppose. When you met me, I was in a difficult place. Although, ironically, it seems that the roles have changed.
I wonder, have your tastes in clothing developed with that voice of yours, or are you still a woman in rags with a large, goofy straw hat on?
I didn't really have a chance to express myself back in those days. Like I said, I grew up on the streets. Never really had anyone to take care of me, save for that bard. But he was committed to his job and was only able to stay in town for a month out of every year. So, while I had a father for 1 month, I had streets for the rest. And as for the hat, well, she kind of runs a claw along her porcelain mask. People can be cruel, and it's easier to meet people on the same footing when they don't have a preconceived notion about you.
What is that supposed to mean?
When someone sees the face of a monster, typically their first thought is that everything underneath is just as hideous. It makes sense. When you run into a bear in the forest, you shouldn't expect a cuddly friend. You should expect a threat. But it creates complications in my situation.
Are you saying the face beneath the brim of that hat of yours is something to be afraid of? What I'd give to look on it.
Look on my face. Darling, everyone who's ever seen my face before has either screamed, gasped, or run away. Usually some series of all three.
Well, I'm not running.
Are you truly sure you want to see what's under the mask?
Sword smiles a bit and gestures to her face.
Can you even see?
Wow. That's a bit of a long story.
Well, I like long stories.
Look, I prefer to keep the blindfold on.
And I prefer to keep the mask on.
Then I suppose we're at an impasse. She clutches her hand tight. It starts to bleed again.
Well, I suppose if you wish to see my face so badly, you'd be willing to remove that blindfold.
Were I to remove this blindfold, it would have to be under certain stipulations.
Stipulations?
You would have to keep your eyes closed. And under no circumstances could you open them. Were I to ever take this blindfold off, you have to close your eyes. Do you understand me?
And is there a reason why?
The hand clenches tighter. It's bleeding pretty bad. Her hand is shaking from how tight she's clenching it. Yes, there is.
She holds up her hands and says, "That's all right. I've seen the beauty of your eyes once before."
These eyes
Much
aren't
as-
the same eyes.
Then I take it there are consequences for meeting their gaze.
Consequences you don't, nor can you, bear to withstand.
That's a bold assumption, but
Solea, the last person to look in my eyes. She glances over at the Dragonborn to see if he's actually sleeping. Is he?
Oh yeah, no, he's passed the F out. Homie is
Listening to the Dragonborn snoring, she turns her head back to you. I buried her.
very well. But I suppose I have a stipulation of my own. If you gaze upon my face, promise me you won't see me for that which lies beneath the mask.
Come here.
She'll set her guitar against the stump and pull herself up, walking up to you.
She gestures to the space directly in front of where she's kneeling.
She'll kneel to as close to your height as she can get. She kind of has to bend.
She, without taking off the blindfold, reaches up and traces her fingers on the edge of your mask. Mostly, I let my fingers do the seeing for me. Tell me what you want me to see.
It might be wise that your fingers not do the seeing. At least not with my true face.
I'm not afraid.
It's not a concern of fear, it's a concern of safety.
She reaches up with the hand that's bleeding, and being this close for the first time, you can see the entire underside, the bottoms of the fingers, the palm, the wrist, are covered in scars and wounds, fresh and old, and there's no sense to them. It's not like one specific thing has pierced her in the same place over and over. It's like whatever has pierced the hand has changed every single time. I think I can handle it.
Do you know what I am?
You're a pretty lady with a big hat.
Flattering, but not what I meant.
I presumed you to be a tiefling by the smell.
Not untrue, no. Do you have much understanding of demonology?
I do.
And my resemblance to any particular denizen of hell?
Can I make a check?
Sure.
I don't know what check this is, but I feel like
I
with my background, I
think
should know what the fuck is happening.
Specifically with demons, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to use religion.
Is it? I'm proficient in religion, motherfucker. Hold on.
Um,
I just
but
rolled a nat 20.
So you do, you know.
Because I'm pretty sure the rule is, just like as a general thing, celestials and devils, or celestials and infernal creatures are religion, abominations and other magical creatures are arcana,
Mm-hmm.
and then like common beasts and stuff would be like nature. But yeah, with a natural 20,
Yeah.
you would know immediately, just remembering what she looked like previously. The tall, thin, it's almost as if she's just a skeleton with skin stretched over it. These long, protruding bones, the red pigmentation that looks almost like blood. The tail, which you remembered seeing swishing beneath the cloak that she once wore. She's a bone devil, an ocelith, or at least a tiefling, a hybrid between some mortal creature and a bone devil. And you would know they are so you would know that they are from the 5th layer of hell. They are pretty mid-ranking devils, and they are known for their incredible intelligence and cruelty, and their incredibly venomous stings. And when you look back at the multiple times where when you remember back when they were children, the multiple times where she almost made physical contact with a person before stopping herself, you're starting to get the picture that that's probably the reason why.
Sword, she kind of smiles to herself at the thought. You're afraid of hurting me.
I enjoy the company of people. I always have, despite how many of them have treated me. But anyone who's ever gotten close, physically speaking, has suffered for it.
Sword starts laughing. Just genuinely laughing to herself.
That amuses you.
No, it's just... Would that fate put us together like this. You, unable to touch someone for the fact that you'll hurt them, and me, attracted to pain.
Attracted to pain.
Have you looked at her sword?
Yeah.
Has your character looked at her sword? The one that's on her back.
Yeah, Solea would have definitely given it a look over.
Did you notice on the handle there are spikes that seem to move as though they're alive?
You know, you don't strike me as someone who would be a follower of Bane or a follower of Levatar.
Sword smiles. You're perceptive. And you're correct.
Well, I suppose if you are unconcerned with the risk of minor impaling, then you're welcome to look at my face. But just keep away from the tail. It's maybe painful, but it's less the pain I'm concerned about now and more the horrible death.
I am a lady. I'll keep it above the shoulders. For now.
And I thought you had no manners.
Well. Happy to prove you wrong. She's gonna delicately press the tips of her fingers underneath of your mask and try to remove it.
She will allow you to. And what is underneath?
She's actually... So she can't see it with her blindfold on. So she's gonna start tracing her fingers along the structure of your face and say, tell me what I'm seeing. Tell me what you want me to see.
What I want you to see. An artist, a creator, someone who is not defined by what they are, what they were meant to be, but by what they seek to be.
Tell me what features you like about yourself. She traces down along your jaw, ignoring any painful cuts and slices that mar her fingers as she does. She doesn't even
Well,
seem to flinch.
I suppose the paleness of my carapace.
You like being pale.
Yes. It's sort of like porcelain.
That suits you. Is it hard? Or is it protective? Or would something easily pierce it?
My skin, it's almost like a second layer of bone.
She
Honest.
traces along the structure of your nose between your eyes.
She doesn't have a nose.
Interesting. So
So
her
if you-
fingers would pause lightly there, then, kind of in confusion.
Yeah, so if you've seen the face of a bone devil
I haven't
before,
actually. Let me just.
it is almost like that of an actual skeleton. There is no nose, instead there's an indentation.
Yeah, so her fingers would pause there instead, not wanting to intrude, and slightly startled, not startled, but like not expecting that.
Solea will giggle.
Were you born like this?
Yes. At least I can only assume I was. Most of us are. Although I've heard some of us are made to be this way later on. I never really knew my parents, but I can only assume it's the usual story.
What is the usual story for a devil?
A warlock seeking power, somebody desperate enough to sell their soul, or perhaps not desperate enough to do quite that just yet. And then a devil, looking for progeny. Although half-breeds are hardly the kind to inherit anything of value. Usually we wind up being slaves to our fathers or mothers. Although I suppose I just wasn't good enough.
Well, whoever let you go was foolish and imperceptive. She retracts her hand and offers you the mask with her other hand, the non-bleeding one, to make sure it didn't get dirty.
She takes it into her hands and says, "Do you wish to gaze upon my face?"
She hesitates.
I'll close my eyes. I'm not one to break my promises.
She still looks extremely hesitant. It's almost the tremble in her fingers, like she's seeing something all over again.
Would it make you feel better if I covered my eyes with something? So that no... She will pull a handkerchief out of her bag and wrap it around her eyes, blindfolding herself.
You hear an extremely shaky breath as Sword lifts her fingers, and you hear the sound of fabric moving.
Don't blame me if you have nightmares.
I've had nightmares since that day 10 years ago. There's nothing you could show me that will change that. And then you don't hear anything.
Hmm.
Considering you're not screaming, I'm hoping that's a good sign.
I don't break my promises either. And you hear the sound of fabric once more.
Am I okay to...
Yeah.
She'll remove the blindfold from herself and place her mask back on her face.
Sword is resting her hands back in her lap, the fresh cuts glistening a little bit.
Hell yeah.
God just coming in.
The approving nod of God himself.
Yeah, did you
Yes.
want to get in on this?
I mean, I could bring my boy out.
Oh God!
So,
I'm back.
welcome back.
Yes. Yeah, I could bring out a few NPCs here.
Oh God, Caldera, no, please.
Nah,
I
Caldeir's already had his fun. What was it?
I am curious.
About?
What you think?
I think that you are unique. And I'm drawn to things that are different.
I like to think that I take pride in what I am nowadays. I mean, she kind of gestures to her dress. I'm a lot more comfortable with showing everything else off.
As you should be.
As for the mask, while I'm not ashamed of what I am, I do find it more convenient to keep that particular part of myself hidden.
It's understandable. Were they good? The 10 years you had at the academy?
It had its ups and downs. I met good people, bad people. I struggled, and then I found value in those struggles. What I was made to be, what I am a byproduct of, I've resolved myself not to be defined by. I believe that I and all people should dance to their own tune.
Sword, there's almost... It's not jealousy, but there's almost a hint of longing for just a moment that you see on her features. I think you and my sister would have been good friends.
Hopefully someday I'll get the chance to meet her.
You really think they're still out there somewhere? It's been 10 years, Solea. They're gone.
They're not. They can't be.
I can't afford to believe that.
I can't afford to believe otherwise. The man who effectively raised me, he told me so many stories of his adventures. He told me of terrifying, daring adventures into other worlds, of delves into the darkest depths, inescapable horrors beyond your wildest imaginations, and yet, every story, no matter how dark, no matter how dire, no matter how sad or terrifying, she plucks at the strings, starting up another Solea. No matter how dour, they always had a happy ending. Perhaps everything never returned to normal. Perhaps there was loss and grief and suffering, but he always came back.
But those are mostly fantasy, Solea. There's only one guarantee in life. And that's pain.
But you of all people should know that pain without purpose is pain wasted. Is that not one of your god's core tenets? Channel that pain. Use it to create something good. She continues her song. It descends into a darker and even more somber tone, and these strings begin to weave together. Suffering is a part of life. Pain is a part of life. We lose things, people, loved ones, but we gain so much more. And the tone of the song begins to become lighter, happier, more energetic, and then it crescendos as these weaving threads form a small sapphire. And she holds it in her hand. All things are fleeting. Joy, happiness, contentedness, but also pain, suffering. Everything changes. Everything ends. So I resolve myself to write a happy ending. And the gem falls apart back into those strings that dissipate into the air.
Spoken like a true bard.
I like to think that I learned from the best.
Well, I've asked my questions. Would that you have any, ask them now. There's no guarantee when we get back that they'll allow us to stay together. After all, they've kept me from you for 10 years. What's another 10 more?
It concerns me greatly. I suppose my greatest question is, why Bane?
You think I had a choice?
I know you didn't. That's its nature. God of tyranny. Its whole purpose is to take away choice. It's just...
What do you
I suppose-
remember about arriving at the academy that day?
Very little. I was grief-stricken, as I'm sure we all were. I remember they gave me a room, gave me the essentials that I would need to carry on, and started me on training to bring out my abilities.
Training.
Indeed. I wasn't always able to make things, put my songs into physical manifestations. That was more of a recent development.
They put you into classes. And allowed you to learn. Be thankful for that.
What about you? What did they do to you?
I was chosen. I remember a woman picking me out. I don't remember why. And I remember being taken. You got to experience classes, teachers. My training regimen was different.
I take it they were less nurturing.
She clenches her hand tight. It's not a wonder the Lady of pain took interest in me. Though I believe her choosing me was my own fault in the end. She brushes her fingers over the blindfold momentarily. It wasn't all bad. I learned. After all, how do you shape weapons? You put them in the fire. And you beat them until they shape into what you want them to look like. Now I'm a tool. I was created to kill. And I do it well.
Do not think yourself alone in that. Like I said, I was chosen in a way myself. Made for a purpose. It's just that, unlike you, I was discarded. But even if I wasn't, I don't think I would have been accepting of the purpose I would have been given. She leans forward. You may not think yourself beyond the scope of their intents, but I want you to see that you are.
Solea, I am a weapon. I was created to be a weapon, and that is what I am. And I have one single intention. I'm gonna kill the thing that took our parents away from us. I will never forget those eyes.
You never saw those eyes before, Solea.
You saw that thing.
It tried to kill me. Of course I saw it.
I didn't get much of a look at it.
It stared at me as I tried to rip my mother and my sister out of its grasp. It stared at me. I can't get those eyes out of my head. I tried to stop seeing them. She grips at the blindfold.
Solea will hold out her hands. Palms up for you to take them.
She can't see it. She's in a panic. It's like she's seeing them all over again. I tried to stop seeing them. I took them out. It didn't help.
She places one of her claws on your knee.
She jolts a bit, not expecting this.
Even with how delicate Solea is trying to be, her claws are like razors.
The pain actually grounds Sword a little bit. She stops.
Solea will bring her hands up and try and place yours in hers.
Sword's kind of frozen. She doesn't move.
I hate that thing just as much as you do. I don't disagree with your intentions. Believe me, whatever it did to them, regardless of what it did to them, it means to pay. And I have a feeling that this academy hopes to use us to that end.
I don't
But you-
care about the academy. I don't care about anything else. I'm going to kill it.
Then you are more than what they are trying to make you. Do this for you, for them. The people who we lost. You may have given up hope on yourself, but I have not. Let me be the light in your darkness.
Solea, you're trying to put beauty into a tool.
Is that not what all tools should be? Is the craftsman not supposed to love his creation? What kind of craftsman would create a tool without beauty?
You're trying to save something that's already gone. Why are you doing this to yourself? You're going to end up hurt in the end.
And yet that is pain with purpose, is it not?
For me, that's acceptable, but you do not serve the Lady of Pain. And you should not feel that way.
You need not serve the gods to see the beauty of their designs, to see the value of their domains. I've never committed myself to one god because I think they are all essential to the cycles of the world. Even Bane, for as little respect as I have for it. Pain is a part of life. I choose to give my pain meaning, beauty. I want to show you that there is beauty in you, that there can be, that you can rise beyond what you are, what you were, what you will be. If you asked any other person what I was, they would say I'm a monster. But I am not content with that. And I am not content with the idea of a tool without beauty, without form or function. A tool without value. we are more than mere tools, mere instruments. We have souls. The body may be a tool, but the soul is the hand which wields it.
Were that the case, that might provide me some comfort. Had I not already sold mine.
Like I said, you may have given up hope on yourself, but I will not.
Then you will be frustrated and disappointed over and over. But I will not stop you.
All of life is fleeting, ever changing. Nothing can stay trapped forever. Nothing can stagnate for eternity. If you don't believe me, then I suppose I just have to prove you wrong.
Should you have the time, be my guest.
She stands up, putting a hand on her hip. Believe me, you'll see one day. You're prettier than me.
Sword lets out a slow breath. I haven't seen my own reflection in over a decade.
Do you want me to describe you? What I see?
If it pleases you.
I'll try my best. Although, I do best when I'm comparing things to other things. Simile. It never truly encapsulates the whole thing, but it comes close. In Jianing, there's a tradition. When something breaks, they put it back together using gold to bind the pieces. Though that item was broken, it could be fixed. And though it will never be the same thing again, though it may be marred, flawed, there's beauty in that. In the unique scars that cross its surface. I see someone who is yet to put all the pieces back together. I see something beautiful waiting to come to fruition.
think the bottom of the blindfold looks a little darker than it was a minute ago.
Also, Liam, I sent you a text on Discord.
Oh.
Getting a teletype from God.
Yep.
Fallon, by the way, you can wake up at any fucking time if you want.
I don't even know if he's present.
It's true, he might be in the middle of a dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of our next steps, I'm not really sure if we'll be able to walk this path together, but as you said yourself, it seems fate's drawing us together. Do you remember what happened after the sinking? Just before we woke up? Did you have dreams?
Damn, did I have a dream? I can't remember.
You did.
Fuck. Did I write
She'll-
that shit down?
If you seem like you're trying to remember, she'll continue.
Yeah, she is trying to remember. I am also trying to remember because I don't.
I recall something about a princess of moonlight? Something about needing to find them.
I
Them being-
remember a voice telling us to find each other. But the rest is hazy for me.
I remember the princess and using her to tear the heart out of this thing. I have a feeling we're supposed to be together for that purpose.
Just that purpose, no other reason.
Yeah, no other reason. If it is ordained by the gods, or whatever force may be above even them, I'm thankful that I get to see you again.
The skin at the bottom of the blindfold is turning a little red. I'm sure you want to go down this path, Solea. I do get rather jealous.
Oh,
I can be overbearing and overprotective, or so I'm told.
darling. I walk, I dance to my own tune. Every step with confidence. Besides, I've never had someone particularly protective before. Could be nice.
Could be a pain in your ass, too, she says under her breath.
Pain is a virtue, darling.
Sword lets out a shaky breath.
You should get some rest. I know you enjoy the pain and everything, but I don't want you bleeding out.
This is nothing.
Very well. I'm going to get a little rest for myself. She blows you a kiss and saunters over to her stump.
Sword lets out another long, slow breath, and then takes Cursebane off of her back and starts cleaning the sword, or at least trying to look busy. She's definitely gonna be keeping an eye out on the surrounding forest, though, since they are both sleeping.
You've taken notice of that grew around the area since you've been here.
Sword can definitely smell them.
They exude a familiarity, especially in that color.
How familiar?
One that haunts you.
Fuck. Sword is not happy. Yeah, but if they're going to sleep, that's where I'll stop.
Alright. Also, you feel like you're being watched. Anyway, how was session?
Great!
Love
Outstanding!
Love that.